You're listening to The KYLO Show, a podcast about how to keep your love on no matter what and why whole, healthy families are going to save the world. And it's our last episode. Just kidding. It's not our last episode, but it's our last episode where Danny and Brittany are laying down the groundwork for why whole, healthy families are going to save the world. They've done that in the previous 7 episodes, and it ends today. If you missed any of those episodes, you're going to want to go back and listen right now. But for today, they're talking about our family mission. Our family mission is to build the family of God, create kingdom culture, and to bring heaven to earth. So let's get ready as Danny and Brittany unpack all of that, what it looks like, and then talk to you about what the KYLO Show will look like in the future. So here we go. Episode 8 starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the KYLO Show.
Here we are.
Where we keep our love on, and we are helping encourage you to make and create and move forward with whole, healthy families.
And save the world.
And save the world.
Yes.
Which today's episode is all about the mission of this.
Exactly. Like what's it all about? What are we aiming towards?
Mm-hmm.
What is the eternal framework, of people who are born on this earth, raised as children, grow up into be young adults, find love, get married, have their own children, raise them to adults, become older, and they begin to kind of parent you in a way eventually, and then you pass on. What was that all about, right? What was the purpose of that?
Yes. Which I think one of the fun things about what Ben and I do is helping families understand their mission.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a big thing that we've been doing in the last couple of years here is really pulling apart, what is the mission and the vision of your family? Because it does feel like we do this. We get married, we have a family, and then we don't really know what we're doing except for that.
Yeah.
Surviving that is the goal.
Pay your bills and go on vacation.
Mm-hmm. And make good memories. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We start and finish, and then we just keep continuing that cycle.
And we were designed for something so much more. Your mission, in essence, creates the culture for your family. Mm-hmm. So if the why behind what we're doing, it elevates the design of what this family always does, what this family never does, and then we build a structure around that, and it becomes our family culture.
Yeah, and I think Ben and I have broken down it to kind of 3 questions, which you helped us with. That is, what's the passion of our family, what's the strength of our family, and what do we want to be famous for, or our legacy. And I think that is really helped hone in finding our mission as disciples and kind of directing ourselves towards our children, and then even our children towards each other, which is a fun thing to watch, and even them towards their peers and different environments that they're in.
It's beautiful. It's hanging on the wall in the house. And
it is.
It's something you can point to forever and say, we always do this. This is, we'll be famous for love. We'll be, we're really good at strengthening other families. I mean, it kind of sets them up to think of giving.
Yes.
With their lives.
And it's kind of been an interesting thing when there is a place of sacrifice that we have to give as the family, or as the parents. We get to point back to that, and there's a value and understanding because they've partnered with the culture that we're creating, and that's one of the big things is really what is that culture and that you're protecting and moving towards.
Yeah. So when we talk about this mission piece, this is kind of our final foundation stone that we're setting before we start talking about the KYLO principles pretty much the whole time. We'll be pounding on that. But this piece here it lines up with the instruction to Adam, go and be fruitful and multiply and take dominion over the earth, subdue the earth, meaning that put things in order so that the kingdom of heaven can come and be established. And sin and disobedience did not eliminate that mission. It just twisted it up like
Yeah.
kind of like crashing the car. Like, wow, it's still a car, but dang.
Yeah, its
That's,
purpose has changed. It's
yeah.
not as the
So
vessel
now-
it once was.
So now it's full of pain and frustration and strife and division and so there's a lot of things to purposefully weed out of that mission, but it's rather than creating heaven on earth, we've created hell on earth. But our mission as families that are submitted to God and looking to reflect the Father to the world, we very much are on a mission to bring heaven to earth.
Yeah, and I mean that is the biggest goal, I feel like, in even this whole healthy families piece is just over and over is what does that look like to bringing the presence of God, knowing the Father to your home, and then to the culture, and then that around you. And it is warring against the culture we have right now, or the mission that we've got right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit intense right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have we've been given a restart in that the introduction of Jesus to the whole equation takes and gives us a brand new car. Like, yep, mankind crashed the other one. Wow, Israel did it over and over and over. You watch through the Bible, like it's that. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. And here we go again. And it feels like we're passing through the hard times again. We're like, there's a trumpet blast for the strong men and women of God to rise up in this time and to refuse to be formed by what weak selfish leaders have given us. And I think that Jesus said, you just need faith the size of a mustard seed. You just need this little tiny piece. That's all you got to have. Just camp in there, right there, and watch what happens. And I feel like that is before us like maybe never before. Everybody get your mustard seed out, because we need to see this stuff happen.
I think the analogy of that's all I need. Even sometimes it feels like, are you sure? Are you sure that's all I need? Because I feel like I'm right there, but it's just amazing sometimes to feel like that's all I need, but clearly I haven't even gotten there because I'm still battling within my own, like, oh, is this enough? Is this good? Or how is it going? So it's
and I think in a time like this, we are faced with, what's the kingdom look like? I mean, even when Jesus arrives on the scene, they're like, oh, the Messiah is here. Awesome. Hey, we got this throne for you. Hop up here and rule like Herod or Caesar or somebody. And he's like, no, I didn't come here to lord over anybody. I didn't come here to rule like the Gentiles do. I came here to serve. And they're kind of confused by that. Like, oh, wait a second, because this whole time we thought our king could beat up their king. That's what we thought we were doing this whole time. We thought, our dad could beat up your dad, and we got the right dad, and you got the wrong dad. And he's like, no, I didn't come to do it that way. I actually came here to establish momentum and the kingdom through you, through depositing in you the kingdom. And then you will go out and advance the kingdom. Jesus said, I'll build the church, you advance the kingdom. And then we said, no, we'll build the church, you advance the kingdom.
I don't like that plan. I want a new one.
I didn't want that to too hard.
Yeah. It was just funny to think, just how empowering God's trying to be. He's this idea of a ruler, like you said, but really it's this place of empowerment. And I mean, we've talked about it before, but really empowering your children, to have this relationship and kind of grasp who is God and what does this on earth mean? You know,
It's a weird thing that people scream about wanting to be free, and then they want a king. They want somebody to be in charge. They want somebody to tell them what to do. And I think when Jesus says, "No, I'm gonna show you how to do it. I'm gonna tell you what's available to you. I'm gonna lead my Spirit here as a awesome counselor and somebody to kind of keep you on track. But you know what? Freedom exists when you tell yourself what to do and you actually do it.
Yeah.
And so the government of God on the earth is held together by people protecting relationships with each other, not someone enforcing a law to create pseudo order and equity. It doesn't come. It goes from the bottom up. The apostles and the prophets are the foundation, meaning that everything that we do draws from who the Father is, what the Father said, and then how we love each other. So I think that the mission is really to learn to be Christ-like and to be plugged into the Father and dedicated to the well-being of the people around you, enough to where I would lay down my life for you.
There's some extreme ownership in all what you're talking about.
Seriously.
It is a responsibility and an ownership that's required in this empowerment, which is, I think, is what keeps us in this loop of selfishness, because it's easier to be selfish than it is to have ownership and responsibility. But the reward is not nearly as great.
Even the founding culture of our Constitution and that sort of thing. Mom and I went back with David Barton, who is a leader of Wall Builders, and we went to the Library of Congress. We were sitting there, and there was 150 pastors, and he's teaching us all this crazy stuff I did not know about the American Constitution and culture. But he was talking about the beginnings of politics, and he said that all this campaigning and spending billions of dollars to get the most attention and get your name in everybody's head so they can't forget you. He said it was nothing like that. It was, the people of Philadelphia who came together and went to the ballot boxes, and they wrote down a name and they put it in a box. And then they counted up who got the most people who wrote their name down. And then the committee goes to that guy's house and says,
Hey,
George,
yeah.
You've been elected governor of Pennsylvania. Will you serve? And George is on his front porch there going, I will lay down my life for my fellow citizens. I will come and serve. And there was probably no paycheck then.
No.
It was probably just
Maybe
like,
a cherry
it's just
tree.
nothing but a gnarly hassle. But George was so respected and trusted by the citizens that they said, will you lead us?
Which I think the biggest thing, the question of will you serve?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the part that is, I feel the missing part is will you serve and will you own and will you, obviously his name's written down for a reason because he's trusted, like you said, but it's still a huge cost to him.
People trust him because they actually believe that he is who he looks like he is.
Mm-hmm. They've experienced him.
He's not a performer. He's not this, polished whatever. He's the guy that is serving the community, benefiting the community. Probably the guy that's creating all the jobs. Probably the guy that other people respect and follow in character and culture. And I'll bet you over and over and over, these were godly men.
Yes, I watched a video. I think it was PragerU, and he's doing an interview asking people if God is in their life and if they're happy. If they believe in God, he said, how happy is your life? And, on a school campus, because that's what he does, right? And everyone that doesn't have a religion and doesn't have a God or doesn't believe in it, they said it took them a long time to say, yes, they had a good life, or yes, they're happy, or they think so. I mean, that's kind of everyone that did have was religious, believed in God. They're like, oh yes, 100%. It's because of God that I know who I am, that I found this. I mean, it was just funny how instant it was when you have an identity and a mission and your alignment of having, let's just say they're all Christians. I don't know that they were, but still like that piece of knowing who God is and the fulfillment of who you are. And then him serving a community, let's say, George Washington is just like, yeah, I'm sure that they were all godly men.
And we've been talking about whole families saving the world. And I think that whole families, we talked about identity and different pieces, but the whole family is a mission that is a group that understands their mission is to bring heaven to earth and to benefit everybody that their life touches.
Love that.
If you're going to bring heaven to earth and benefit everyone around you, you're going to need to know a thing or two about honor. And don't worry, we got you covered. We just released the Foundations of Honor Life Academy course. Foundations of Honor is a comprehensive study of the practices, values, and effects of building and protecting a culture of honor. Danny Silk sits down with his friends and high-level leaders and breaks down how to build a culture of honor in your family, church, organization, and community. If you want to learn more about the Foundations of Honor Life Academy course, visit lovingonpurpose.com and click courses.
So life in America, life in this culture is, flowing from a lot of what the founders established in our Constitution. Many of them we know had a biblical worldview. I think back in that day, it was pretty tough not to. It was all pre the levels of atheism that we're bombarded with these days. But I think Protestants believe that true freedom comes from self-government under the authority of God. And so that's what's built into our nation's constitution is that, you have rights given by God and you have freedom given by God, and so does everybody around you. So you had better protect your rights, your freedom, and everyone around you for this to work. At the same time, they know that they can't legislate morality. They can't make the heart of men worship God, trust God, serve God. And so the American experiment is kind of this wrestling match with freedom and free will.
Yeah.
And so I think that we're in this ongoing tension to offer freedom and benefit that comes from the authority of God, and realizing that a bunch of people won't submit to his authority, won't play by the rules that he's laid out. And what do we do in that contest? What do we do in that banging around? Because we're on a mission. We're on a mission to bring heaven to earth, but not everybody's on that mission. As a matter of fact, these days it's a war.
Yeah.
It's a war to bring heaven to earth, because a bunch of people have successfully undermined Christianity in such a way that it's become the villain.
Yeah. I think church is no longer the safest place. It's been long since that's happened, but I just think of, Christians are not known for lovers of people as much as they are known as the rule makers and the judgers of the world, or the criticism and all that. That feels like what the church has been morphed into, which has lost its call, its mission to loving one another and protecting those relationships. You know.
And I wonder if it's actually true. It's so hard to know what's true these days because of the bombarding of sources of information. But there is definitely a tainting of people's experience of Christians. Like, well, Christians this and Christians that, and Christians are judgmental and Christians are punishing, and Christians, well, so is everybody else, right? So I don't know that you can specifically point it over here, except maybe you don't expect it as much, or you don't. You've come to think that they shouldn't be similar to the rest of the planet. Like, I'll give you that, but I think Christians, for the most part, are very charitable, are very compassionate, are very service-oriented, are very community-minded, are, they do just, I just want to live my life and be happy and help whoever I can. And we live in a small town, we live in a little community. I was at the grocery store yesterday, and there's a man and a woman and two little kids outside the store. And they have a little speaker, and this guy has a accordion, and so he's playing this accordion music. It's some other culture. I don't know what it is, but it's they're standing, and she's holding up a sign that says, "Having a hard time paying rent. Will you please help?" And so people are going into the store, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna get some money. So I came out, and I parked my truck right by them, and I had handed him some money. He's like, "Oh, thank you." And this car stops right in front of them, and this older lady gets out, and she hands them some money, and then they drive out, and another car pulls up. While I'm just standing there, 3 people are handing them cash, believing that sign is true.
Yeah.
That they're not being duped, that the gypsies didn't come to the little town to rip everybody off. It's like, oh my gosh, I believe you when you tell me you need something. I think very much. I mean, if we did a poll, I would guess those people would say they were Protestants.
Which I think is beautiful if that's what is the loudest thing. And I think that's what should be the loudest thing, is living generously and living Christ-like, and that your Father is seen through you, and that being the mission that we're on. I think, we had a similar situation, and we were in the drive-through and having a good time with the guy that's taking our order, and he's just making us laugh and having fun. And I mean, the kids are dying laughing, and he was really quick. He was quick-witted, man. And so, our form of kind of showing God's love is generosity in that moment. We're in a line full of people. It's hard to, pray and, do all of that, because you got to be considerate of everyone else's. Yeah. But, but it's just funny when you when you invite, like, the kids were all present for that. And so to have that, to leading them, and like, this is what our mission is about, is being generous. And this guy was just kind of blown away, didn't really know what to do. And he ended up with inviting us to his wedding and inviting us to, hold his baby whenever it happens. I mean, he was very funny.
He's got to get a girlfriend.
He did. But I think the beauty of, if that's what as Christians we become famous for, then we're doing our mission well. Is this place of displaying the Father's love and value for all people.
And nobody stopped to ask these people, what do you believe to be true? Who did you vote for?
What do you agree with? Yeah, I agree with.
Do you are you nice to puppies? Do you it was just a human being's reaction to another human being. And I think that built into our culture is really a compassion and a justice that lives on the surface for us. And it's so that really is flowing from Christ likeness. That there is obviously, we have lots to learn about lots of how Christ would handle situations, but I do believe that there is it's in the heart of people in this country to behave that way. And obviously people are doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But when you get right down to it, people are wanting to be compassionate to each other and wanting people to experience justice, not oppression. And then we're being presented with this, bring the kingdom of compassion and justice to the earth without the king. Yeah. We don't want the king. We don't want Jesus. We don't want the Father. We don't want the Holy Spirit. We want mankind to get the glory. And we're going to set up this thing that is, it presents like it is setting people free. It is the greatest source of oppression I've ever experienced in my nearly 60 years on this planet, is what I'm watching crush our country right now. Like, oh my gosh. And it's Antichrist spirit. That's what it is. It's the thing that wars against our mission. Our mission as whole healthy families is to come in and to release this grace, this mercy, this love, this justice, this generosity, this service, just as Jesus would. Yeah, we're all fallible, but we're not without wanting to see this happen. And whereas this other thing that is rolling up is all about submission. You submit or I will punish you until you do.
Yeah. I was thinking about a conversation you and I had about just trying to figure out how social media has been working, like the goal of, I'm going to tell you about something I did so that I look good, I get praised, instead of doing it and never telling social media or something, because that exchange of generosity or empowerment or encouragement or love was a gesture to honor my king instead of to honor man. And I feel like that's really loud in the kind of what's been on display, is that kind of thing of man, is that my intentions to be kind are rooted in this man being glorified in man.
And that's what, Jesus went after the Pharisees. He's like, hey, don't stand on the street corner and pray so everybody goes, wow, what a holy guy.
Yeah.
Don't drop your bag of money in front of everybody, because you just received your reward. You just got the praise of men. That you but it's the things given in the secret. It's like, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, which is kind of sneaky. I don't know how you actually pull that off, but that's how nobody knows about what you guys did in that drive-through except that guy and your family.
I know all of you, but I told you.
and now the rest of humanity knows that. But up until that point, it was all about a export of the culture of our family, cross paths with this guy who had absolutely no idea who you were. He still doesn't know who you are. It was an anonymous blessing, drive-by blessing. Boom, there you go. He's down there, got $100 bill in his hand going, oh my gosh, what just happened? Like, yeah, it's because you cross paths with the Serple family.
Which, again, is that mission of, what is our mission? It's to love like Christ, and it's to bring heaven to earth, and it's to, populate the planet with people that are going to do the same thing, over and over and over again. And there is a piece where I feel like we are at war of a different culture. There's a different agenda. There's a different value. that is rooted more in a selfish nature. And it's just interesting to like not getting caught up in that. Like that's when I talk about like the social media world. Like it just feels like it's an easy slope to just all those likes. They feel good. They, all those comments. They, but I think none of my kids have social media, and I'm trying to keep it that way for as long as possible because I know my own battle of navigating that and making sure that my intentions, my heart feels pure every time that I pursue something or I get a big response. So it is just kind of this swirl of knowing that it's not for man's glory, but for God's glory.
Mm-hmm. It really is the battle of attention. Mm-hmm. Like never before have we been able to access so much attention from people we don't even know.
Yeah.
You're like that. This has never been like this on the planet, where you're wondering what absolute strangers think.
Yeah.
Like who, what, how did this happen? Like I have a few people that I really care what they think. Why would I, I've had things written on my posts, like, oh, I just have no respect for you. I was just kind of like, who are you? Who is talking to me right now? I don't know what's happening. And I think I'm being punished, I think is what's happening. And like, all right, well, I love you. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah,
whatever. I don't know you, and it doesn't change. But that is the intimidation, mm-hmm. domination, submission, punishment cycle that's just waiting for folks to mm-hmm. to kind of get slapped around. So I think that there's lots of very positive, powerful things that are impacting our society. It's just not coming through the screen.
Yeah.
The screen is telling us, hey, everybody's at war with each other. Everybody hates each other. There is no good anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's nowhere. It's just terrible. Everything's right. Like, I don't believe that. I don't believe it, because everywhere I go and everybody I know is doing a good job.
Yeah.
I almost forgot. Have we talked about Life Academy Live yet? Life Academy Live is a hosted Life Academy course with weekly live webinars to enhance your experience and deepen your learning with the Life Academy course. And the next one's coming up. We're doing a Life Academy Live with Foundations of Honor. This course is going to be hosted by Danny Silk and Ben Serpel. So if you're interested, go to lifeacademylive.com to find out more.
So there's a book called Culture Making.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to cover a couple elements of it, but break that down a little bit for us here and the importance of it.
Yeah, Andy Crouch wrote this book, Culture Making, and he talks about essentially how Christians have interacted traditionally with culture. Mm-hmm. And one is by consuming it, and they just become like the world in that area, condemning it, retreating from the world and pointing, over there, that's the world, mm-hmm. Critiquing it, which is observing it and not breaking away from it, but pointing, well, that's not good, and that's not good, and that's mm-hmm. not, and then copying it, like
copying the world.
Yeah. So we're gonna make the Christian version of that. Mm-hmm. Like the Christian version of movies, mm-hmm. the Christian version of music, the Christian version of pop culture or whatever. Yeah. So pretty soon you're like, we have our own rendition of that thing that the world made bad, and mm-hmm. So now we have all kinds of stuff going on that is one of those four he's pointed out. I thought they were just interesting adaptations that we have, but he goes on to say that the only way to change culture is by making more of what you want to see. Displacing, like we displace culture we don't adapt to what isn't of the kingdom. We just displace with the kingdom everything else.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean that's kind of like bringing heaven to earth. It's it works in any culture. You know, if you were to introduce, in a city of, let's say, Reading, or Sacramento. Let's go with Reading. Reading's, roughly 100,000 people. If you introduced 150,000 aliens, from outer space, 150,000 outer space aliens landed in Reading, their culture would displace what goes on presently in Reading, and Reading would end up adapting to the new dominant culture.
Yes.
And I think that is really what Andy Crouch is saying, is that there's an emphasis on more of what you want to see, not a watered down version of what you want to see.
Which, when you say watered down version, you mean the kind of recreating this to some degree.
Copying what you see, but making it Christian.
So I might get in trouble for this, but how does the cancel culture play into this?
Well, that's a culture that's literally trying to displace. If we went 70 years back, I don't think it would have been too tough to say Christians are Americans and Americans are Christians. I think you probably, you're from Texas? Oh, you're a Christian. I mean, there was just so much harmony and agreement between Christianity and American culture that it wasn't very divided. Well, now we have been displaced with an anti-American, anti-Christian culture that just complains about both of them now. So now the so-called popular culture, or the one that you see on TV or the one you hear about all day long, is at war with these two cultures. And so there's a big gap between Christianity and pop culture. And we're having a hard time figuring out what an American is anymore.
I was to say the same thing. I think there's a lot of confusion over what is America and this. I mean,
and it's all by design. It's all there to break everything down, get everybody fighting with each other. Nobody's happy with anything anybody says, does, is.
Right.
Just always something to complain about and tear each other apart about. Like, wow, that sounds like a great place. How do I sign up?
Yay.
No, get me out of here.
Yeah.
So we begin to talk about keep your love on. Like, okay, I don't know what you're going to do with you, but we are going to keep our love on. We're going to so much infuse into anybody that's listening this culture of KYLO that's why we're doing a podcast. Is we want to help people who want help to displace all the hate and the division and the judgment and the punishment and the chaos. And we really do want to set things up to where we can worship our Father. We can freely make it known that we are his sons and daughters and that we love him and that we will take care of his heart. We will make decisions that protect our Father's heart. That's job one with us is, we're going to worship. We're going to put on display that he is our top priority, and we're going to do it his way.
Yeah, and I think that, that's one of the biggest things that I think I'm encouraged my kids in when there's a place of insecurity or fear or anxiety or that warring, is to go into a place of worship. I remember Delaney struggling in school, and I'm like, how you change your atmosphere, which is your culture that you're carrying, is to enter into a place of worship. And it's just like, I love that that's maybe step one, is let's worship. let's worship a little bit with the intentionality of, everywhere I go, my Father is, and that it is something that's tangible and present that people are encountering.
And that's that's coming from the mission.
Yeah.
That here you go. That's turned into behaviors in the home. So we're going to worship. We're going to practice covenant. And we in some of our earlier podcasts we talked about how covenant is the dynamic of the Trinity. It's mutual submission. Like I will defer and I will work to protect our relationship. There's unity in diversity, meaning that we're all very different, and we honor that about each other, and we unify around that value. And then sacrificial love, like I'll lay my life down to protect us. I will. And I don't know what we're going to do about that thing we disagree about so terribly, but I will tell you this: I love you.
Which I think you're talking about, like the division that's in our nation right now, and that's those covenant relationships. And there's a lot of division. There's a lot of place of disagreement, which I think Ben and I have been on our own journey of, having covenant relationships with people and different seasons of agreement or disagreement, and what the beauty of covenant is supposed to be, which is that I'm going to continue to love you. I'm going to continue to, be available and be loving towards you. That's, outside of the marriage covenant, but like looking at it as a big picture, America, lots of people we disagree with right now. Who are you in covenant with that you're still going to love? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then legacy would be the third. So worship, covenant, and legacy are really some of the core values of keep your love on. And legacy being that I'm actually living my life to glorify God into eternity. That's what I'm here to do. I know that I came into this world naked and fragile, and I'm going out the same way. It's like, okay, well, what's the space between the two? I learned who I was, why I'm here, and how to do what I'm supposed to do, and how did I impart that to the people around me, the next generation?
Yeah, I think how do I communicate that too? Like that's a big piece, is giving language around what it is that I'm executing. I think that's part of what I feel like Ben and I are trying to navigate with our own children, is giving language to, this is how you do it. This is how you create legacy. This is what you are fighting for, that mission piece.
And so that's the worldview. That's how we see everything through a KYLO lens, through a biblical lens, is, okay, my Father, my love and covenant, and the release of my life on the rest of the world. How do we do that really well? Well, what we're going to be talking about for a very long time are these next 5 principles. And it's, to be a powerful person, choosing love over fear, pursuing the goal of connection, communicate with respect, and honor boundaries. You're going to hear us, all you who are listening, you're going to hear us say these things over and over and over and over, because they're so transformational. They're so life-giving. I wish I had a nickel for everyone who says something to the effect of, "You've changed my life." This loving on purpose stuff really works.
Yeah. And I think we worked at trying to make these easy to remember, so that, as we kind of just dive into these principles and dive into the definition and the examples and in trying to help you apply these in your life. Like, I think that we really tried to make sure that they're simple. So if you want to, have a journal just for the KYLO Show of how to be a good steward of being powerful and connection and having love and respect and boundaries, that's what our hope is for these things and breaking them down as we go. And we are going to say those a lot.
We are.
I'm going to
We
point
love
back to
we
them.
love to talk about it though, because it is really the winning side of relationships when people discover that they're powerful. They're not powerless, they're powerful. That means you can decide, you can direct you can be free. You actually can find freedom. The war between love and fear, we've been talking about this for decades now, but it's absolutely true that there is a war between these two elements, and love chases away fear. Bad news is fear chases away love. So being a powerful person, you have to decide, who's going to be your counselor, right? Pursuing the goal of connection, number one question in any marriage counseling situation. What is the goal of this relationship? And and then they find out the goal is distance. And there you go. You have intentionality around creating increasing levels of distance. Are you surprised that you're feeling the way you're feeling? I am, actually. I didn't realize I had that as a goal. Right. So the goal of connection changes all of your behaviors because you need to go in a totally different direction. Communicating with respect, also known as honor or culture of honor, or communicating in such a way that lowers anxiety, increases care, offers the chance to that goal of connection. And boundaries. We'll talk about boundaries for the rest of our lives.
I would say that's your number one question. It feels like in a Q&A. Boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries.
Early on in the conference, we would do the Q&A, and we hadn't got to the boundaries lessons yet.
Yeah.
But all the questions were, well, what do I do when the person's mean? What do I do when the person's disrespectful? What do I do? And what if that doesn't work? What if there's no hope in the planet? Okay, well, I'm going to set a boundary with you right now.
Yes.
And I'm going to go to lunch.
Well, I think you did a beautiful job of kind of unpacking them just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
A little peek, a little sneak.
Because it was a little peek, because we are going to focus on those and kind of give some clarity to each one. We're trying to help you be equipped and activate and empower you to live this lifestyle of KYLO and move you towards a whole healthy family that will save the world, which we've said over and over and over again.
And we will continue.
Yes. If you haven't, that's our catchphrase. If you've just now caught on, that is going to be part of the catchphrase of the KYLO Show. But so we're looking forward to the kind of a transition of unpacking those and then kind of giving examples and having some fun. We might laugh a little bit more. It's been a little heavy in the front.
But this is so foundational, and
It
it's
is.
so, we're going to clash with our culture, and, there's just so much to disagree with and things that have been said thus far, but it's up to you. If you're still with us after all that, congratulations. But now we're about to show you the how.
Yeah. And that I think is probably one of my favorite parts is the how and really getting to hear all the testimonies that come with when people discover how to do this and they get to see their worlds transformed, which is our heart and prayer for all those listening.
Good stuff.
So thank you so much for joining us on the KYLO Show. And don't forget that whole healthy families are going to save the world.
Thanks for listening. Next week, Danny and Brittany will be taking your calls and talking about the 5 KYLO principles and how to apply them. Never miss a KYLO Show episode by subscribing to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch us on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to submit your listener questions. You can do that at thekyloshow.com. The KYLO Show is produced by Ali Armerding and co-produced by Ashley Beck, Anna Hill, Lee Alexander, and Sherry Silk. Engineered and edited by Taylor Silk and show promoter, me, Christian Zamora. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.